So, what can you expect for a landscape in 2025? By landscape, we mean things like employment, interest rates, mortgage rates, rental prices, home prices, what's going to go on with the car market and EVs, what's going to happen with AI and employment, even things like cultural developments and political developments. What do we think is going to happen? Now, some of this is opinion, but it's not an opinion just based on crystal ball, this is what we think is going to happen, or even wishful thinking, what we wish is going to happen. Much of this comes from watching the different trends that are happening and just plotting lines of here's where it was yesterday, here's where it is tomorrow, and then this is where it's going. This is something we've worked on for months, and you can go back in some of our prior videos and see this. But let's just jump right in. Where do we think interest rates will be for mortgages in 2025? 10%. That's the number that we'll see. In fact, the changes happened a little bit sooner than what we thought. In January of this year, 2023, we predicted interest rates. We have a video on our channel called Mortgage Rates Will Be 8.6%. We thought that was going to happen in 2024. In October of this year, interest rates were 8.6%. So it happened a few months earlier. Interest rates in 2025 will be 10% for 30-year fixed mortgages. That's based on, where does that come from? Not just a guess, not just spin a wheel on Wheel of Fortune and see what happens. It's based on the fact that interest rates are determined by two things: the Federal Reserve rate and also the markup for mortgage companies. Do the math on those, and it's going to be 10%. The Federal Reserve rate right now is in the fives. By 2025, it'll be 6% plus, because there may be a little bit of a pause on interest rate increases because of the election. They're going to maybe hold back on that, but they can't hold back too much because they still have to water down inflation. Once the election is done in 2024, now they'll start raising again, because now there's 4 more years of not having to worry about the repercussions. They have to raise interest rates. If they don't, inflation's going to get even more out of control than it is. It's already pretty high. They have to knock it down quick, otherwise they're in big trouble. So the Federal Reserve rate will be 6.5. The mortgage companies have to have a margin, so they buy their money at 6.5%. They have to mark it up 3 to 3.5% because their operating costs have to be taken care of, and their profit, and they're selling less mortgages, so they have to have more margin. For that reason, you had 6.5 plus 3.5, there's your 10%. That's where rates are going to be. And historically, that's kind of a natural level for interest rates in this environment. Go back to the 80s and 90s, we've talked about it before. Interest rates in the 9 to 10 to 11% range were normal. Sometimes they bounced up to 14 or 15, sometimes they went down to 5 or 6, but 9 or 10 is normal. What is that going to do to housing prices? Housing prices are probably going to remain largely unchanged. The median price for a house right now is about $440,000, depending on how you do the math. It's probably going to stay about the same. It might bounce up a little bit. If you're looking to make a big, huge windfall on your property, you're probably not going to see home prices go up too much. Some areas will go up a little bit, some will stay the same. But if you're looking to buy a house, don't expect them to go down either, because interest rates going up aren't going to knock down housing prices. People not purchasing as many homes because of interest rate affordability is not going to knock down housing prices. Most people are going to stay about the same range. Some people that might have thought about selling higher than where it is now might be down to earth, but the down to earth is current level. It's not below current level. Housing prices never really backslide. There's always a ratchet effect. Once you get to a certain level, sellers and owners expect that's what their home is worth. Unless they're desperate to sell, like they were in 2008 when the housing crash happened, housing prices don't normally backslide because it's like a ratchet. You ratchet and you click it, it doesn't go backwards. The other reason is housing availability. There's not enough houses to go around. More people want to live in homes than there are homes to live in. They are building lots of apartments for renters, but that doesn't help the housing market of purchasers. New single-family home production is relatively low because of interest rates. The builders aren't building a lot of houses because of permits and development time is really, really challenging for general contractors. We're a licensed general contractor. We know this business inside and out, so we know what it's like to build a single-family home and what the challenges are. So there's your real estate. How's that going to affect rental? Rental is probably going to stay the same. It'll probably bounce up about 5 to 6% per year. So in 2025, that's roughly a year and a half from now. Look, you might think it's 2 years. We're at the end of 23. It's almost Thanksgiving. There's Christmas trees in the stores, so the year's over. You have all of 2024 and then 2025. So 12, 14, 15 months maybe. Counted the year and a half. It's here. 2025 is here. If you have an apartment that rents, or even a house for rent that's, let's say, $2,000 a month, expect that is going to probably be $2,200 a month in 2025. It's not going to go up a ton. We had the big jumps last year, but it is going to go up. It'll probably go up at the same rate as the official inflation, not the real inflation. Official inflation is kind of, identified at 5 or 6%. The real inflation is probably more, 10 to 12%, but rental prices will probably go up the same amount, 5 or 6%. If it's just math, you should buy a house, even if it's not the house you want, because you'll save more money that way than renting. In the long run, short run, it'll be more, but in the long run, you'll save because your rent increases aren't going to happen with a mortgage. What about employment? Well, we've seen tons and tons of articles where companies are starting to either lay off employees or just do attrition. Let people leave on their own. Say, you force them to come back to the office instead of work from home. Some people quit. Some people don't want to do it. Let them quit because AI is already taking over a lot of jobs and workflows. Maybe not a whole job, but it's taking over chunks of jobs. It's taking over part of workflows. So companies can get by with fewer employees. We talked about it last week. If you have a company with 500 employees and you can get 20% more efficiency from AI, that means it's 100 employees you don't need. So over time, maybe you lay off 10, maybe you fire 10 for other reasons, maybe 20 or 30 of them quit because they have to come to the office and can't work from home. A few of them retire. You get rid of those 100, but you don't hire new ones. So it's not going to be massive layoffs per se in most cases, but it will be a reduction of workforce because of artificial intelligence. Even the most recent UAW strike with the automakers was because of they're worried about EVs and automation of making EVs. It's all about technology. And look, there's always been technology that makes jobs less needed and automation bigger, but this is a big jump. This isn't just maybe a new software technology that makes 5 jobs go away. This is huge. This is transformational in the industry. So look at your job, but also maybe not directly, but indirectly, if the people who buy from your company rely on AI, it might have a domino effect. So AI could be an effect on your job, either in terms of not getting a raise or not getting a promotion, or your job being eliminated altogether. So what do you do about it? If you're in a job that may not be taken away 100%, but maybe combined with another job, start cross-training. Start looking at another job that maybe might merge with yours. If there's 2 people, position A, position B, and the company has to merge those 2 together at some point because of AI, learn position B. Because if the other person doesn't know your job, but you know their job, when it comes time to decide who gets the remaining job, it's going to be you. So keep that in mind for your career path. What about electric vehicles? Well, electric vehicles, it's like playing chicken. The government and the automakers are pushing. They want to have EVs out there, and consumers don't want to have it. And who's going to blink first? This week and this month, there was a lot of blinking by the electric vehicle proponents. Some factories got shut down. Some government requirements got paused. Consumers aren't buying these cars. Dealers having them pile up on their lots. But it may not be the last word on this. There's still a lot of momentum spending billions of dollars pushing EVs. So it may be there's a pause, but it may not be permanent. It may be that electric vehicles still have their day. There may come a time that it probably won't be 2025, but in 2027 or 28, there may only be electric vehicles to buy. You may not be able to buy a gas vehicle. In fact, this was mentioned. Here's a really good article from Clean Technica, which is a industry publication for electric vehicles and future technology. EV revolution is a done deal, they're saying, and it's going to be prosperity. Okay. There's a lot of people who don't agree with that. A lot of people are not buying electric vehicles. I mean, the silence is deafening at dealerships for electric vehicles. But, like I said, it may not be the last word. What do they say in this article? Well, you can scroll down, and here's the big key paragraph. Who will buckle? In my uninformed opinion, this is the author, any manufacturer of passenger cars based on internal combustion and technology and part suppliers will be gone in 10 years, even if they're trying to transition to electric. Let that sink in. Any manufacturer of internal combustion engine cars will be out of business. And they talk about an example of horse and buggy, and the transition from horse and buggy to automobiles was only 10 years. My opinion, personally, is there's a difference. Even though you might say, well, horse and buggy industry went out of business to get the cars, it took 10 years, EV is the same thing. It's not the same thing. Think of the difference between a horse and buggy and a car, right? Horse and buggy compared to a car is much better performance. It can go faster, it's farther, it can travel in different places. There's no comparison. If you raced them, if you competed with them, the car is much superior to a horse and buggy. Now compare an electric vehicle to a gasoline vehicle. What's the performance advantage? What's the advantage to the consumer? If you were somebody in 1903 in New York that was going to either buy a horse and buggy or buy an automobile, which one are you going to buy, right? There's no comparison. But if you're a consumer in 2023 and you have your choice between an electric vehicle and a gas vehicle, which one are you going to buy? Well, obviously, the proof is in the pudding because no one's buying EVs. And factories are shutting down. So this article is a little bit of a unfair comparison, but they are saying, maybe they know something we don't, that all manufacturers that manufacture gas vehicles will be out of business in 10 years. I know you have an opinion about that and the other things. Let us know in the comments what you think, and we'll see you on the next video.